Go to the nearest room, lock and barricade the door, stay low, and stay quiet. The voice over the intercom sent a chill that cut through the bones of every student in the building. What was supposed to be just another unremarkable school day turned into the kind of horror people only hear about on the news. I grew up in a small, rural town, the kind that was surrounded by more trees than people, where the loudest thing you'd hear after dark was the crickets chirping and maybe a truck engine starting up in the distance. My high school was modest, maybe 700 students total. In my graduating class, there were fewer than 200. We all knew each other's names, and if not names, at least faces. It wasn't the kind of place you'd expect anything unusual to happen. And that's why it did. We were a simple community. After school, we didn't go to malls or throw parties. We rode bikes down gravel roads, played football in dusty fields, watched horror movies without thinking they'd ever mirror real life. The town was so quiet, it was almost unnerving. Looking back, that silence wasn't peace. It was the calm before something cracked. There was one kid who always stood out by not standing out at all, Luke. He wasn't weird, not in the way people might expect. He didn't dress differently, didn't have strange mannerisms. He was just quiet, eerily quiet. He didn't talk, didn't make eye contact. He existed like a shadow in the room, always there, never acknowledged. Everyone knew his name but knew nothing else about him. Luke and I shared a computer elective. The room had these ancient, boxy desktop computers that made a low hum when they ran. The classroom layout was symmetrical. 2 columns of desks, 4 rows each. Most of us sat in groups, paired with friends, but Luke, he always sat alone, second row, farthest seat on the left. The seat beside him stayed empty all semester. At first, no one paid attention to him. But then, as teenagers do, some of the seniors started to fixate on him. They joked about how quiet he was, how creepy it was that he never talked, how maybe one day he'd snap. They said it with nervous laughs that masked real fear. Sometimes they'd throw paper at him or whisper things just loud enough for him to hear. It wasn't playful, it was mean and dangerous. The worst part, the teacher did nothing. He just sat there, grading papers or staring at the screen, while Luke was slowly being pushed further into some dark corner of his mind. I remember one day in particular. A crumpled paper ball hit the back of Luke's head. He turned slowly. His expression wasn't angry, it was hollow. There was no flinch, no surprise, just a look that seemed almost resolved, as if he'd been waiting for it. He stared at them for a long moment, his eyes dead, and then turned back to his screen. I didn't do anything, I just watched. One day after school, I saw Luke sitting on a curb by himself near the school's entrance. It was chilly, and the wind blew leaves across the sidewalk. I was walking to my car when I saw him just sitting there, staring at the ground like he was trying to drill a hole in it with his eyes. On impulse, I called out, "Hey, need a ride?" He looked up, visibly surprised. For the first time, I saw emotion cross his face. Something like relief, or maybe gratitude. He nodded and followed me to the car. That drive was awkward at first, but he eventually opened up, slowly. He told me people didn't just pick on him in our class. It happened all over school. Constant whispers, glares, laughter that stopped when he entered a room. I told him to ignore it. I said they were losers who didn't matter. He gave a hollow chuckle and looked out the window. "They're not the only ones I'm sick of," he said. There was something heavy in his voice, something that made the air feel colder. When we got to his house, an old, quiet place tucked into the woods, I made a dumb joke about how close we lived to each other. He smiled, barely. I drove off feeling uneasy, but convinced I'd done a good thing. In the days that followed, we started greeting each other in class, just nods, maybe a quick hey, but I never got involved when the seniors resumed their torment. I still watched. I still stayed silent. Then came the day Luke didn't show up. It wasn't until 7th period, English class, that everything shifted. The intercom buzzed to life. Lockdown, this is not a drill. The teacher's face went pale. She sprang up, turned off the lights, pulled the blinds, and ushered us into the far corner of the classroom. Her panic infected all of us. My heart was racing. The silence in the room felt deafening. We waited in the dark, 10 minutes, 20, maybe more. Then the intercom crackled again. The principal's voice was tight and shaken. There is a person outside the building wearing a mask and carrying a black duffel bag. Security saw them trying to enter the premises. Law enforcement has been contacted. Stay hidden and do not engage. The room was deathly quiet. No one breathed. I felt cold sweat dripping down my neck. Eventually, we were dismissed early once police arrived. I drove home with a few friends, trying to shake the unease. We told ourselves it was probably just some weirdo who got spooked by security. But that night I woke up and everything changed. It was the tapping, soft, deliberate, repeating. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. The blinds were drawn, but I could see a faint figure through the slats. I approached, stomach twisted in a knot. As I lifted a corner of the blind, I nearly screamed. Luke was outside, staring at me. I barely managed to whisper, "Who is it?" His voice came through, muffled but unmistakable. "It's me." I opened the window just a crack. "What are you doing? How did you find me?" He didn't answer right away. Then, softly, through the window, I tried to do something bad. My blood turned to ice. It clicked instantly. The mask, the duffel bag, the lockdown, the missing student. It was you. I whispered, "You were the one outside the school." He nodded, no shame, no apology. Yes. I stared at him, my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to ask what he was going to do, but I already knew. I asked instead how he found me. He said he remembered me mentioning a nearby deli during one of our rides. He rode around until he found my car. That was how he tracked me down. And then he asked me something that still haunts me. "Can I come in? I want to talk about it, about what I was going to do." I said no. I told him he needed to go to the police. To confess, he just stood there watching me. I whispered one word, "Dad," loud enough for someone to hear. Luke's eyes widened. He stepped back, then disappeared into the night. I ran to my parents' room and told them everything. My mom broke down in tears. She called the police immediately. I gave them Luke's name, told them everything he said. They were already searching for him. He'd vanished after school. Eventually, he returned home. Or they found him. I never got the full story, but I know he confessed to everything. He was charged with making a terroristic threat, served time, got out years ago. I don't know where he is now. I don't want to. Sometimes I wonder if I could have done more. If being kind once had pulled him from the edge, or pushed him closer. Sometimes I wonder if he'll ever come back, and sometimes I wake up to silence at the window and I'm afraid to look, because I'm not sure what I'll see staring back. It happened years ago, back when I was in 5th grade, though the memory still plays in my head like a film I didn't want to watch. You might remember that time yourself, when those disturbing clown sightings started popping up all over the country. They were everywhere. News reports, social media posts, grainy phone videos, blurry figures in clown suits wandering the edges of playgrounds, standing silently at the corners of quiet streets, sometimes even chasing people. Adults laughed it off. dismissed it as some weird internet trend or elaborate prank. But for us kids, it was terrifying, not just because of the clowns themselves, but because no one seemed to be stopping them. It was an otherwise normal day at school. I went to a small elementary school nestled in a quiet suburban area, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and nothing bad ever really happens. That was the illusion anyway. The day was winding down. I don't remember what the assignment was. We were probably filling out worksheets or writing paragraphs or something equally mundane. But I do remember how quiet the classroom felt. A few kids were whispering. The air had that sleepy post-lunch stillness to it. No one expected what happened next. Then a girl near the window gasped, loud enough to cut through the silence. Her voice was sharp high, pitched trembling. "There's a clown outside." We all turned toward the windows, some of us standing up to get a better look. I still remember the exact moment my eyes locked onto the figure standing just beyond the glass. There he was, a clown, not a cartoonish birthday party clown, but something wrong. He stood no more than a few feet from the window, motionless, facing directly into our classroom. He wore a filthy, baggy red and yellow clown suit, so stained and wrinkled it looked like he'd slept in it for days. His face was painted white, with harsh black smears circling his eyes, and his lips were stretched into a grotesque red grin. But it wasn't the makeup that disturbed me. It was the way he looked at us. His eyes didn't move, but you could feel him staring, choosing, and then he started to wave, slowly, rhythmically, as if caught in some nightmarish loop. Some kids laughed nervously, unsure if it was real or a prank. Others, like me, just froze. My skin prickled all over. It felt like the air in the room had dropped 10 degrees. Mrs. Riker, our teacher, stepped up to the window, scowling. She stared at the man through the glass for a beat, then raised her voice. "Excuse me, classes are in session. You need to leave." The clown didn't move. He just kept smiling, that wide fake grin cracked across his face like a mask, and waving. Not a word, not a blink. Mrs. Riker's tone changed. She told us all to sit down, her voice firmer now. She marched over to the phone mounted near the door, yanked the cord, and walked into the hallway while speaking into the receiver. We could barely hear her, just the low murmur of her voice, tense and clipped. When she came back in, her expression was unreadable. She crossed the room, yanked the blinds shut one by one, quick and stiff, like she didn't want to give the clown another second of attention. But I saw him again, right before the last blind closed, still waving, still watching, still smiling. We sat in silence for a few minutes, our unease growing, until the intercom cracked to life. "All staff, please initiate lockdown procedures immediately." The voice was calm, but too calm. That voice wasn't reading a drill. That voice was warning the teachers without scaring the children. Mrs. Riker acted instantly. Lights off, door locked. She told us to get under our desks and be quiet. There was no time for questions. We obeyed. Some kids whispered, others giggled nervously, but a few of us just crouched there in silence, trying not to breathe too loud. I remember hugging my knees, heart hammering in my chest like it wanted out. The room was so still, every creak and shuffle echoed like thunder. 30 minutes passed, though it felt like hours. No one explained anything. We didn't hear footsteps or shouting, just an awful silence pressing down on us. Then the intercom returned. "The lockdown is over. The situation has been handled." Mrs. Riker exhaled audibly and stood up. We all followed suit, cautious and shaken. She didn't explain. No one did. Later, we learned from whispers that school security had checked and confirmed the clown was gone. That was all they said, gone, but that wasn't the end. The day resumed like nothing had happened. We went back to our assignments, but the air in the room was different. Hollow, everyone was talking about it during dismissal, but the staff stayed tight-lipped, like they'd been told to keep us calm, like they didn't want us to know the truth. After school, I walked home with my best friend Chris. We lived just a few blocks away, and the walk was usually filled with jokes and stories, but that day we were quiet, still processing. We were maybe halfway home when it happened. Two girls from our grade sprinted past us on the sidewalk, clearly panicked. One of them shouted almost in tears, "There's someone in the woods." Chris and I stopped, turned, and looked. Behind the school there's a thin patch of trees. Not a forest, not even thick enough to get lost in, but just enough cover to separate the schoolyard from the road. Enough to hide in, and there he was again, the clown, standing just behind the tree line, half hidden in the shadows, watching. Same suit, same makeup, same nightmare grin. He was waving again, but this time not to everyone. He was waving at the girls, slowly, deliberately, like he was inviting them, calling them. Chris and I looked at each other for only a second, no words. We turned and ran as fast as we could. I told my parents as soon as I got home. I didn't care if it sounded stupid. I had seen it, twice. They called the school immediately. I overheard the tense conversation, saw the look on my mom's face. Later, a kid from class told me the police came back. They searched the area, patrolled the neighborhood, even went into the woods, but they didn't find anything. No one, no footprints, no clues. Nothing to this day. Nobody knows who that man was. Whether he was some sick prankster or something darker. Maybe he was just trying to scare kids, or maybe he was waiting for one of us to come closer. But the part that chills me the most, the part that still crawls under my skin when I close my eyes isn't that he came to the window. It's that he came back. After the lockdown, after the warning, he hid. He waited, not to make a scene, not to grab attention. He waited until we were dismissed, until the gates were open and the school was vulnerable. He waited in the trees, just far enough out of sight, until the kids started walking home, and he watched.